Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. Mario Cristobal, the Miami Hurricanes landing another massive commitment in the 2025 cycle coming from four-star cornerback Jabari Antoine from the state of Louisiana. And you talk about pivot plays from five-star cornerback DJ Pickett committing to LSU. I don't know if it's a better pivot play. It doesn't get any better than landing four-star cornerback Jabari Antoine for the Miami Hurricanes. And that's something that's really important to talk about that doesn't get enough attention on the recruiting trail. When you are Mario Cristobal, the Miami Hurricanes, you're going to go big fish hunting. And to Mario Cristobal's credit, a lot of these big fish do wind up with the Miami Hurricanes, but the nature of going after these top prospects like DJ Pickett is you're not going to get every single one of them. And your ability to pivot and still fill your class with really solid football players is kind of the difference between really good recruiting programs and great recruiting programs. And I think this is an example of a phenomenal pivot play from Mario Cristobal and the Miami Hurricanes. And I'll kind of preface that conversation with Mario Cristobal in Miami. They're not going to give up on five-star cornerback DJ Pickett. I fully expect that recruitment to come down to National Signing Day. We always see Mario Cristobal flip a few guys late. I think DJ Pickett's going to be one of those targets. But you talk about even missing out on DJ Pickett and talking about what this Hurricanes class looks like in 2025 in the secondary, extremely strong, right? You talk about Chris Ewald, Timmy Merritt at the cornerback spot, now Jabari Antoine, then the safety spot, Mari Wallace, Drake Stubbs. Even if DJ Pickett does not wind up in this 2025 cycle, Miami is bringing in a very, very strong class in the secondary. Fired up to get into the film of Jabari Antoine. Before we do, and as always, just want to say thank you to you guys, to the Miami Hurricane fans especially. Many of y'all know talking the recruiting trail is one of the things I love most to do. I don't think there's a more active, engaged fan base on the recruiting trail than this Miami Hurricanes program. I can't thank you guys enough for all the support you guys have shown the boys. It's been a blast breaking down these commitments. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. And without further ado, let's get into Jabari Antoine. I call him the babyface killer because you take a look at the picture of Jabari Antoine, kind of looks like a little kid. When you turn on the film, this is one of the more physically imposing cornerbacks that you're going to see in this 2025 class. At 6'1", 170, a ton of length in the arms. This kid uses that length. He's consistently putting hands on wide receivers, controlling them at the line of scrimmage. And although doesn't get asked to play a ton of press man coverage at the high school level, I think that's where he's going to operate his best. He's a smooth operator that uses his length extremely effectively. And what happens when you get him into this Miami Hurricanes program, you put a little bit more weight on his frame. I think you're looking at a cornerback that really can dominate wide receivers at the line of scrimmage. A few other things that I really like from the film: he's a smooth operator. He's not just a linear kind of athlete. When you talk about wide receivers trying to create separation and having cornerbacks that can stay in the hip pocket, really make those throwing windows small, Jabari Antoine is one of those cornerbacks, excuse me. You look at wide receivers creating separation, trying to get in and out of their breaks. Jabari Antoine is just a smooth operator. I think the last thing I love is what he can do with the football in the air. This is a big, long frame that knows how to play the football in the air, which not a lot of defensive backs at the high school level are very good at. You see a lot of growing pains for young defensive backs making that transition to the collegiate level. They panic when the football is in the air. You look at Jabari Antoine, he's a guy that's going to go up and make plays on the football. That's another thing that I think makes you really comfortable about Jabari Antoine. He's a box checker with some big-time upside when he continues to put weight on the frame. You turn on the film, I think the first thing you see is the ball skills, right? Kind of playing this single high safety role. He normally plays cornerback, but when that football's in the air, Jabari Antoine, he's going up and making plays. Really, really comfortable when the football is in the air, using that big, long frame to go up and get it at its highest point. Again, we see a lot of defensive backs really struggle in that field. Jabari Antoine doesn't. Now you see him playing this cornerback spot here where he's just going to, I mean, this is as good as it gets. Squeezing this wide receiver right to the boundary, battling with, go back to this, you battle him with the hands, and then we're going to turn our head around, find the football. Again, a lot of defensive backs really struggle with getting their head around and playing the football. Jabari Antoine using that length, using those hands, and then locating the football, making a play. That's as good as it gets from Jabari Antoine. You continue to work through the film and just a lot of, I think this might be my favorite rep that you see. Talk about smooth operator. I mean, hip pocket, right in this wide receiver's hip pocket. Pretty much no throwing window for this quarterback to get to. Not a bad throw by any means. Jabari Antoine just making that ball impossible to complete because of how smooth he is in terms of mirroring wide receivers and staying in their hip pocket. Another rep where, hey, we can just leave him on an island because we feel really, really dang comfortable that not a lot of wide receivers are winning one-on-one. You see the football in the air, we're battling hands, squeezing them out. There's just limited throwing windows against Jabari Antoine. If you want to beat Jabari Antoine in man coverage, you're going to have to be great because he does not give you very easy access throws to these wide receivers. You continue to work it, working in the nickel, working as a safety, working as a boundary safety, a lot of different things you can do with Jabari Antoine. And again, one, using our hands, using our length, controlling wide receivers, and then just staying in the hip pocket. A lot of cornerbacks struggle with staying with wide receivers when plays get extended. Jabari Antoine, not one of those guys. And you go to this class in 2025 for the Hurricanes. It's a top 10 class in the country. Add Jabari Antoine. You look at the secondary. I've been very vocal that Drake Stubbs, probably one of, if not my favorite safety in this 2025 cycle, just a ball hawking safety that always seems to be around the football. You continue to scroll down and say, Mari Wallace, another one of those safeties that I think just has phenomenal instincts, probably can operate as a nickel cornerback as well. And then you look at the cornerbacks, Chris Ewald, about as polished as it gets. This is a kid that practices against Jeremiah Smith and JoJo Trader consistently at the high school level. You talk about cornerbacks that are ready to make that jump. I think Chris Ewald is one of those guys. And then one of my personal favorites is Timothy Merritt, coming from Birmingham, Alabama, where a little less polished than Chris Ewald, but a guy that from a physical trait standpoint at 6'2", 180, physically imposing cornerback that can put hands on wide receivers. I think there's arguably the highest upside in the cornerback room is going to be what Timothy Merritt brings to the table. So you got a really polished cornerback in Chris Ewald. You got a really solid cornerback in Jabari Antoine. And then this, I think, just massively fascinating cornerback in Timothy Merritt that has some big-time upside. Although Miami loses on DJ Pickett the first go-around, again, I think they're not going to give up on that recruitment. You still look at this secondary and say, we feel pretty good about the young talent that the Miami Hurricanes are bringing in. I think that just speaks to what Miami's doing on the recruiting trail where, hey, even if we miss on one of our crown jewels, so to speak, we're still going to sign a really good class in the secondary. A lot to be excited about. We'll close it there. Appreciate you guys rocking with the fellas. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. We'll talk to y'all later.